In Pakistan, there is a waiting period for replacement parts. Not only is the speed faster, but it also requires only rupees, like the 2 gears in front of you that look like scrap, and the master only needs to replace the foil groove in the center hole, so that the broken gears can be used continuously, not because the new gears cannot be bought. It is more cost-effective to maintain and replace because this time, a master who needs to keep the teeth intact must first control the center that does not meet the requirements. The use of a rib knife to complete the cutting can realize the subsequent splicing replacement plan, considering that the splicing of the two needs to ensure the strength of the string, so the hole diameter of the gear needs to be continuously expanded after the central hole is leveled. Only in this way can it avoid the larger the fracture hole diameter when the gear rotates, so that the force of the two can be balanced. And with the accurate measurement of the teeth by the master, it is obvious that there is no way to control the concentricity, and the master has to work on the inner wall to create a splicing rib. This not only allows the two to concentrically close the closed bite of the rib, but also increases the strength. And after confirming that the tooth distance of the rib is in line with the requirements, the same cutting process can be performed on the tooth pattern of the broken tooth because the previous tooth pattern hole diameter has been fixed. Therefore, the master should use this data as a reference to open the glue at the extension points of the center of the gear to avoid the difference between the data after cutting and the hole diameter is too large, and it is obvious that the width of the cutting head needs to be calculated for horizontal glue cutting, and then it is necessary to ensure the joint of the extension wire splicing of the central hole. The master has to use the caliper to repeatedly compare and measure so that he can determine the correct insertion position of the knife head. Although the cutting of the Rowan knife has great limitations, but the master also tries his best to increase the width of the groove position as much as possible to make the space for the lateral movement of the Rowan knife larger. However, in order to connect with the previous gear, the existing external data is far from enough, and the master needs to carry out precise adjustments, not only to smooth the cross-sectional surface and work the top and other smooth ones. The external evidence data should not be too large or too small, and this is the key to the splicing of the gear wheel of this word. And after the detailed data comparison of the 1000, it is now necessary to compound the threads of the same tooth tool. Although they do not have high-end vertical control machine tools, the master's teeth are controlled very accurately, and they are hidden from the gear hole position and geometry docking, and it can be seen that there is no gap in Luo Wen from the master's effortless rotation, etc. When the two are directly connected with welding rods to fix the fixed position, the central hole of the two is stored in the height difference, and at this time, it is necessary to have a fingerprint that has been formed into a hole. The self-use welding rod fills the gaps on both sides of the weld, so that the gear wheel can be more durable, and it is obviously not possible to rely on ribbing and brocade fixation alone, but the welding cannot avoid the formation of welding scars, so that the original beauty can be restored. The surface of the paved welding bar should be connected to the handover work, so that the part of the raised part is completely flat with the end surface to cover the welding traces, and at the same time, the gloss can be greatly increased, and the soldering bar on the other side can completely seal the groove. Therefore, the master also needs to cut the welded 8 columns horizontally to restore the base depth of the original groove. So the two scrapped gears simply replace the grooves of the center holes